Welcome back, my name is Sam, and in today's video, we are going to talk about the psychological warfare happening inside the Mercedes garage. George Russell waited years for a championship-winning car. He carried Mercedes through their darkest seasons, outscored Lewis Hamilton, and patiently bided his time. Now, in 2026, he finally has the fastest car on the grid. But instead of cruising to a world title, he is watching a 19-year-old rookie rewrite the Formula One history books right in front of him. The Canadian Grand Prix was supposed to be Russell's statement weekend. Instead, it ended with a thrown headrest, an FIA investigation, and a championship gap that is starting to look insurmountable. Let's get into it. To understand the sheer frustration George Russell is feeling right now, you have to look at his journey. He spent 3 grueling years at the back of the grid with Williams, proving his talent in uncompetitive machinery just to earn his shot at a top seat. When he finally joined Mercedes in 2022, it was supposed to be his moment, but he arrived right as their era of dominance ended. For 4 long years, he drove cars that were difficult, unpredictable, and rarely capable of fighting for wins. Despite the struggles, he did everything right. He outscored Lewis Hamilton in 3 of their 4 seasons together. He was the ultimate team player, carrying the team through their darkest rebuilding phase. And when the 2026 regulations finally delivered a dominant Mercedes, this was supposed to be his reward. This was supposed to be his championship. But then came Kimi Antonelli. The Italian teenager did not just arrive in Formula One, he took it over. After Russell won the season opener in Australia, Antonelli went on an absolute tear. He took pole and the win in China, becoming the youngest pole sitter in F1 history. He won in Japan. He won in Miami. By the time the paddock arrived in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix, Antonelli was leading the championship, and the pressure on Russell was immense. Canada was Russell's chance to strike back, and for a while, he looked completely locked in. He took pole position for the sprint race and won it, but not without controversy. During that sprint, the 2 Mercedes drivers clashed hard. Antonelli was forced onto the grass 3 separate times while trying to pass his teammate. The teenager was furious over the radio, shouting, "That was very naughty. That should be a penalty. I was alongside the mirror." The tension was so high that Toto Wolff actually had to jump on the radio himself, telling Antonelli to concentrate on driving and stop moaning. After the sprint, Antonelli delivered a cold, pointed message. "If we need to race like this, good to know." That set the stage for Sunday's Grand Prix. The weather in Montreal was unpredictable, with rain showers threatening the circuit and forcing teams into difficult tyre choices. Russell started on pole again, but the race immediately descended into chaos. Lando Norris, starting on the intermediate tyres, got a lightning launch and jumped both Mercedes cars at the start, forcing Russell and Antonelli into a brutal high-stakes battle behind him. The early laps were a masterclass in tension. Russell eventually fought his way back to the front, overtaking Antonelli just before the final chicane. But Antonelli never let him breathe. The teenager stayed glued to Russell's gearbox, lap after lap, constantly probing for a weakness. The gap between them hovered around half a second, a dangerous distance that meant one small lockup could change the entire race. On lap 22, Antonelli made his move. He threw the car down the inside at the final corner and actually took the lead, but he locked up and ran wide off the track in the process. His race engineer, Peter Bonington, immediately came over the radio and told him to give the position back to avoid a penalty. Antonelli argued, asking, "Why, mate? He pushed me off and I was already ahead." But despite his frustration, he eventually complied and tucked back in behind Russell. Even though Russell was back in the lead, the dynamic had shifted. Antonelli looked relentless. He was applying the kind of sustained, suffocating pressure that usually belongs to seasoned world champions, not a 19-year-old in his second season. Russell was driving brilliantly, defending his position and his reputation, but he could not shake the kid in his mirrors. And then, on lap 30, disaster struck. Without warning, Russell's Mercedes simply died. There was no radio panic, just a sudden loss of power. The team later confirmed it was a catastrophic failure in the battery. The car went completely dark, and Russell was forced to pull off the track and retire from the lead of the race. When he climbed out of the cockpit, the frustration of the entire season boiled over. In a moment of pure, unfiltered rage, Russell ripped the headrest out of the car and launched it away. It landed on the live racetrack, immediately triggering an FIA investigation for unsafe behaviour. Russell later issued a public apology to the marshals and the stewards, admitting he was embarrassed by his actions. He was handed a suspended €5,000 fine, but the financial penalty was nothing compared to the emotional toll. When Russell finally spoke to the media, he sounded utterly defeated. "It feels like somebody doesn't want me to fight or compete for this championship," he said. 3 out of the last 5 races, there's just been something really going against us. I'm just a bit lost for words right now. While Russell was dealing with the heartbreak of another mechanical failure, Antonelli was busy making history. After the virtual safety car ended, the Italian calmly managed his pace at the front of the pack. He He controlled the gap to Max Verstappen and eventually crossed the line to take his fourth consecutive victory by a comfortable margin of over 10 seconds. Let that sink in for a moment. Kimi Antonelli is the first driver in the entire history of Formula One to win their first 4 races consecutively. He is the youngest driver to ever win 4 races in a row, breaking a record previously held by Max Verstappen. He is the youngest pole sitter in the history of the sport. He is not just beating George Russell, he is doing things that no driver has ever done before, and he is doing it in his very first full season in a championship contending car. And while the Mercedes drama dominated the headlines, the rest of the grid was dealing with their own chaos. Lewis Hamilton drove a brilliant race for Ferrari, hunting down Max Verstappen in the closing laps and passing him around the outside of turn 1 to snatch second place. Verstappen held on for third, securing his first podium of a very difficult 2026 season for Red Bull. Meanwhile, McLaren had an absolute nightmare. They gambled on intermediate tyres at the start, which proved to be the wrong call. Oscar Piastri collided with Alex Albon and received a penalty, while Lando Norris eventually retired with a gearbox issue. It was a race of high attrition and massive consequences across the entire paddock. The championship standings are now a nightmare for Russell. Antonelli leads with 131 points. Russell is in second with 88 points. That is a 43-point gap after just 5 races. Even if Russell wins the next Grand Prix and Antonelli retires, the teenager will still be leading the championship. What makes this situation so dangerous for Russell is how Antonelli is handling it. There is no rookie panic. There are no wild celebrations. After winning in Canada, Antonelli sounded completely calm, almost as if winning is just the baseline expectation now. He is comfortable applying pressure, he is aggressive in wheel-to-wheel combat, and he does not seem intimidated by his older, more experienced teammate. Behind the scenes, Mercedes is trying to manage the situation. Toto Wolff admitted that the intra-team battle in Canada was just acceptable, noting that 10% less battling would have made everyone on the pit wall a lot happier. But interestingly, both drivers have pushed back against team orders. After the race, Russell and Antonelli delivered a joint message to Mercedes management. Trust us to race each other. But trusting them to race is one thing, surviving the psychological warfare is another. Russell now faces the toughest challenge of his career. He does not just have to beat Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. He has to beat a generational talent sitting in the exact same machinery, a driver who currently has all the momentum, all the records, and all the luck. The next race is Monaco, and honestly, that might be the most dangerous part of this entire story for George Russell. Monaco is not just another race, it is a pressure cooker. It is a track where confidence is absolutely everything, and a single mistake can end your weekend in the barriers. Russell knows this. He understands exactly what is at stake. A 43-point gap is a mountain to climb in Formula One, especially against a driver who is making almost no mistakes. If Antonelli wins again in the streets of Monte Carlo, the whispers in the paddock will turn into shouts. The momentum will feel completely unstoppable. Is this already Kimi Antonelli's team? And if it is, what does that mean for George Russell's future in the sport? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Can George Russell bounce back and fight for this championship, or is Kimi Antonelli simply too good to be caught? I read as many comments as I can, and I love hearing your takes on these intra-team battles. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We cover all the biggest stories and paddock politics every single week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.